Ever since the release of The Last Jedi, and of course ending the sequel trilogy off with The Rise of Skywalker, it left a lot of fans divided, even till today in 2023, surprisingly, that Bob Iger, Jon Favreau, and Dave Filoni, even George Lucas, are trying to find pathways and avenues to really reunite the fandom by delivering satisfying moments in the upcoming Star Wars TV shows that are about to be introduced on Disney+. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the kind and great support. Now that brings us to exactly what's been going on between the Disney Star Wars universe and of course how Legends is going to come back and coexist with the actual canon material. Basically, Jon and Dave are finding ways to really kind of balance things out and to keep things as accurate as they can with Legends, and how that's going to work hand in hand with the fandom. Now, that brings us to Mark Hamill. Alright, now we already know that for the past couple of months now, he's been a lot more direct with the fans, a lot more vocal and opinionated about his version of Luke in episodes 8 and 9 and exactly how that went down. But one thing that a lot of fans should be very well concerned about is exactly what Kathleen Kennedy's motive really is when it comes to Star Wars. And Mark Hamill really laid something very concrete when it comes to Kathleen Kennedy's mindset and thinking style when it comes to the fandom, the lore, the canon, whatever have you. So we already know that she's very busy and having a troublesome time with not just Skeleton Crew, but also with the Acolyte, to the point where the Disney board members had to get Jon and Dave to help out for a couple scenes here and there to prevent the shows from being a complete disaster. However, Mark Hamill recently had something very important to say. Now, with actor Mark, very vocal and directly, of course, engaging with the fans as of late, he recently unveiled more about Disney and Lucasfilm's operation of Star Wars when it involved Kathleen Kennedy. Mark Hamill recently stated the following to the fandom about something substantial involving Kathleen Kennedy. When we were making The Mandalorian Season 2 with Jon and Dave, they knew they had to bring Luke back in order to hook the audience to want more from other Star Wars shows. To my surprise, this was something that Kathleen Kennedy tried to prevent from happening in the first place. I remember when I got the call to return as Luke and to take part in the making of the character. Kennedy was trying to turn it around and leave Luke absent and wanted an unknown Jedi to save the day instead. She felt that Luke would just steal the whole show and make fans care less about characters like Grogu and Djarin and all the others. Now, I want to just stop here quick of what Mark Hamill's saying. This really brings me back to the sequel trilogy films, where Kathleen Kennedy said we did not want Luke as the main character or the main protagonist in Episode 7 because she felt that it was going to take away from Finn, Poe, and of course, Rey. And you know what? In the end, it's true to an extent, because those characters, the way they were written, were very flat. Had those characters been written better, it might have been the opposite, right? Even if Luke were to come into the equation, maybe he wouldn't have stolen the show. But was it the right choice to cut Luke out of the majority of Episode 7? Absolutely not. Not the right choice. What they should have done was what Michael Arndt, the original writer, wanted to do before J.J. Abrams came on board, was that Luke would actually pop in midway through the movie to help out Rey, to guide her on her adventure, set her story up, very much, by the way, like how Kenobi did with Luke in A New Hope. That's basically what Michael Arndt wanted to do. But Kathleen Kennedy wanted to exclude that, feeling that Luke would just be too much of a distraction away from characters like Rey. Because let's face it, Luke is a lot more of an engaging character to an extent when it comes to Obi-Wan as far as legacy goes and how he's a legend and stuff like that. Very much so. So moving on to the next thing is that Mark Hamill's elaborating that Kathleen Kennedy tried to really stop at nothing to prevent this from happening. To really make sure that Luke was not going to appear in Mando Season 2, she tried everything that she could to convince the Disney board members to not go through with this, to not include him in the marketing, and they technically did not include him in the marketing. You guys may recall that Mando Season 2 got all these character posters, and the only character that did not get one was Luke. Out of all the character posters out of Mando Season 2, look them up, not one of them has Luke on an official scale. Official posters we're talking about. So moving on, of course, he goes on to say, which obviously everything turned out fine, he says. I remember like it was yesterday that John was fighting to keep Luke in Mando Season 2, and we almost lost him. Luke was this close to getting cut from the series for creative differences on Kathleen Kennedy's end of things. About midway through shooting, she wanted to pull the plug on the whole thing, and the cast and crew was getting very upset to the point where it gave her a change of heart to go through with all of it anyway. And I'm glad that we got to do this, and for Boba Fett. And this is not the end. So Hamill really putting it out there, confirming that it is not the end. Now, we haven't really heard much, to be honest, about Luke in Mando Season 3. It's all mostly been about Mando Season 4, from what we've been talking about. And that leads a lot of people to believe that Luke may very well be absent, or not really occurring in the third season as much. Maybe he'll have a little shoe in there, here and there, but not a big role. Mando Season 4, however, John and Dave are prepping for Luke to be a major influence on that season for holiday season of 2024. I know it's a far ways out. But look, here's the facts here. Kathleen Kennedy does not like Luke. And she does not like the traditional sense of Star Wars. She does not like the George Lucas vision of the franchise. It's pretty valid at this point that Kathleen Kennedy strictly wanted to use the Star Wars brand, or the logo, or whatever have you, the likeness of the brand, to really kind of just promote her own piece of art, or her own piece of work, right? So that's why she was really trying to get Luke cut from Mando Season 2, and then just insert some unknown, Jedi that we know nothing about. That's what almost happened. And Mark Hamill, really kind of putting it out there that Kathleen Kennedy really didn't even want Luke in Mando Season 2. It says a lot. It says a lot about her character. It says a lot about her motive and how she has all these different agendas in mind to not even include all these great legacy characters. And look, I think what John and Dave did was great. They created a formula for the Star Wars shows by throwing cameos in season by season for show of show. And it's a good setup. It's a real good marketing move. It makes fans want to check them out. And I'm not saying that cameos fix anything or really kind of make the show or anything like that, but it is the icing of the cake. And it really makes fans really all the more interested. And even Pedro Pascal confirmed that Mando Season 3, if you were excited about Mando Season 2, that's just the beginning when it comes to surprises, he said. So expect a lot more cameos in Season 3. Will any of them be Luke? It's looking like a real hard 50-50 shot now. We haven't heard much about Luke being inserted into Mando Season 3 as much. It's mostly been about Season 4, just to be very clear and apparent there. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys have to say about all this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. No, I'm not the one from night to moon.